Welcome, everyone. I'm happy to have you join us today. So before we begin our webinar, just a little bit of housekeeping notes for you relative to the audio. So the instructions on how to adjust your audio during the webinar are sitting here, and all attendees will be on mute throughout the webinar. And next, some instructions for the Q&A section. So, we'd really like to hear from you and would like to include you in our conversation today. So we strongly encourage you to use the Q&A panel and post any question that you have at any time during the webinar. So now I'd like to begin the webinar by introducing our featured host and guest panelist. And our host today is Monique Bergener, who is our Senior Director, MSP VMS Client Management at VeriKlick. And our panelists today are Rachel Harrington, Program Director at nextSource, Natalie Hill, Director, Supplier Partnership at nextSource, and Kristen Clues, Vice President, Workforce Solutions at nextSource. So welcome, everyone, and I'm so happy that you could join us today. Next, we'd like to take a few minutes and have our nextSource team introduce themselves and highlight their career experience. And we'll go ahead and begin with Kristen. Kristen, I'll turn it to you.
Thanks, Gloria. Thank you, you and Monique both for inviting both Natalie and Rachel and myself to join at nextSource. We're really thrilled to be part of this. I have been in the workforce solutions space for over 25 years. I actually have, I joined nextSource a little over a year and a half ago and have been in both sales and operations roles throughout my career. Excited to have a conversation today with everyone as we've been in unprecedented times in the last 12 months. And looking forward to the conversation, and thank you so much again for inviting me and my colleagues.
Super, our pleasure. So Natalie, would you like to share some of your experience with our audience?
Sure. Hello, Natalie Hill, Director of Supplier Partnerships at nextSource. So I've been working in the MSP space or MSP industry for over 10 years. I originally started my career in Australia and have since, in the last 7 years, been working in the US, but I've also managed clients in LATAM and Europe as well. So definitely got a global experience there as well. I've been at nextSource just over a year. I'm really enjoying it here. And again, thank you for inviting us today to the webinar. Thank you.
Our pleasure, and thank you. Rachel.
Hello, and to echo Kristen and Natalie, thank you very much for including us. I'm Rachel Harrington. I'm a program director with nextSource. I've been with nextSource for just about 2 years. Have about 20 years of experience in the contingent labor industry, with more than 15 years of that specific to MSPs and VMS. So obviously seen a lot of evolution in my time, and really looking forward to chatting with you about it.
Excellent. Super. What a great team. We're, again, we're just so excited to have you with us today. So now let's go ahead and begin this exciting webinar, and with such relevant topics that we have today for discussion. MSP programs adding more value to clients in 2021. And Monique, I'll turn this over to you now to begin this really exciting discussion.
Thank you, Gloria, for the lovely introduction. We're proud to be partnering with nextSource today and very excited to get started. I'd like to first introduce our speaker, Kristen Clues, who will talk about the nextSource approach. Kristen, the floor is yours.
Thanks for everyone's time today. As I mentioned earlier, really looking forward to this, proud to be part of it. As you all know, we are nextSource. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with us, but I thought I'd take a little bit of time and just share a little bit about who we are. And what our approach is. We are, for those of you who are unaware, we are a woman-owned certified organization in the workforce solutions space. That means we offer solutions in managed services, in EOR and AOR, as well as direct sourcing. So those are really the solutions that we offer. We are focused on the mid-market. By that, we mean we are not really the organization that folks come to when they're looking for a solution that's a Gen 3 or Gen 4 solution. Our focus is really on Gen 1 and maybe some Gen 2 organizations who really are just starting out on their journey from a workforce solutions perspective. As many of you know, there's a lot of education that goes in line with that. And we are committed to a partnership mentality. So that focus is because of that. We really are passionate about this business. You know, I have actually worked with a number of folks that are here at nextSource in prior roles. As a matter of fact, it's my third time working for our CEO. It says a lot about who we are as an organization and how passionate we are about the business. We're focused on diversity and customization. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, but I think a lot of organizations in our space, and especially in what we've experienced over the past 12 months as well, you know, customers are coming to us and really looking for us to customize our solutions. So less of a cookie cutter approach. And I know that that's kind of an overused sort of mantra, so to speak. But I think that for us, it's become very, very different, and it's become very specific. We have a lot of new organizations that are coming to us, and the business has changed significantly over the past year and a half, a lot of activity. But what they're coming to us and looking for is for us to customize the program in alignment with their strategy, not only as it relates to their workforce, but as it relates to their strategy as an organization. So I think that from a nextSource perspective, that's who we believe we are. We are very committed to the communities that we serve as well. And I think from a partnership perspective, we've really, and I know Natalie will speak a little bit more to that later, but that's really something that we value. So this partnership with VeriKlick and having the opportunity to present and partner on this is greatly appreciated. From a client marketplace feedback perspective, we're hearing a lot about the need for data analytics and what does the story tell them, our clients. It's more of they're looking for more of a solution-based approach. So consultative and driving alignment with the strategy, which is what I just briefly alluded to earlier. You know, I don't like these overused terms like consultative and strategy and those sorts of things, but actually, that's actually what's happening. They're coming to us and saying, we know that these are our policies and we know that this is what we're doing, but we really want to hear about what you would recommend. What have you seen? What does the story tell you? What are other clients in the same industry telling you? You know, we have as you know, we are a mid-market focused organization, and a lot of the research is telling us that the mid-market is really underserved right now. SIA came out with some research recently that shared really that the mid-market, not only has no one in our industry been able to penetrate the mid-market, but nobody's really doing it as well as they possibly could. So we have a real opportunity there, and we're trying to really seize that. One of the things that we're hearing in the marketplace as well is a lot on diversity and inclusion. I'm sure you all are as well. And one of the things that we're hearing about is not just diverse owned organizations like ourselves or our suppliers, which Natalie and her team have done an amazing job of really making that a robust group. But we are also hearing a lot about candidate diversity. And I wanted to allow my colleague Natalie to speak a little bit about that because she really has done amazing work in that space.
Thanks, Kristen. Yeah, so what we're really starting to see from our clients, you know, a couple years back, it was really a push of, okay, who is our diverse supplier? You know, who are our diverse suppliers? Are we meeting targets if they have targets, that type of thing? But over the last year, really post-COVID, we've seen this big push of, you know, we want to have a completely diverse workforce, right? It can't just be the suppliers. And so we're really starting to see a push there. And it's not just, you know, who are our diverse suppliers anymore? It's what kind of diversity programs do our suppliers have? What are they running? You know, how are they reaching out to the community and maybe getting underserved areas or markets into a particular client? And so we're really starting to see a push for that, which is really good to see. So thanks, Kristen.
Great,
And
thanks,
I'll
Al.
obviously, yeah, and I'll talk about this in a little more detail a little further into the presentation.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. I mean, we're definitely hearing that from our prospects as we're entering into these presentations and we're putting together RFP responses. They're asking really specific questions around that. And so it's something that we're hearing more of. As a matter of fact, we just recently submitted a proposal response where they just hired, and this organization has never before had someone focus solely on supplier or solely on diversity and inclusion, and have just hired a director for that role specifically, and we're seeing more and more of that. So as it relates to COVID and how that's impacted us and impacted how we do business, right? So if you're in any sort of business development role, you know that you can't meet face-to-face with clients, and you can't attend conferences, and you can't do things the way that we used to do things, which is why there's been a lot of this, you know, a lot of the webinars and a lot of the virtual conferences. And it's really required that we really dig deep and focus on what our solutions are and how we approach this. You know, we have seen significant increase in opportunities around employer of record services as well as agent of record services. As some of you might know, we have a higher ed practice within nextSource. And within that practice, we've seen a significant uptick in terms of EOR and AOR solutions needs. We have organizations that are hiring adjuncts and part-time professors throughout the country, and not just throughout the country, throughout the world. And so coming to us for a solution to help them payroll those individuals and get those people onboarded and making sure that they get paid on a regular basis. The other thing that we're seeing is an uptick in the high tech and logistics industries. We actually just recently, we're actually about to go live with the logistics and manufacturing organization, and we have 2 more in the queue. There's been, as many of you know, now there's really a lot of online stuff that's happening, and so that's changing the way business is being conducted, and then in fact changing the way we are addressing workforce solutions. In addition, we have a lot of organizations which has definitely impacted our AOR services, because we're looking at online organizations that need content writers and that need translators and that need those sorts of folks. So it's opened up a lot of opportunity, and it has forced us to look at our business a lot differently and look at the workforce a lot differently. In terms of new solutions as an organization, I would tell you that direct sourcing has been a big focus of ours. We brought on in the last 7 or 8 months, 9 months, a gentleman by the name of Michael Matherly, who heads up, he's a practice leader for both our AOR and our SOW solutions. Comes from a background of owning his own business doing the same. So we are expanding that operation as we speak. But in addition to that, something that I think that really has differentiated us, and talk a little bit about it, is our program maturity assessment model. And it's something that actually one of Rachel's colleagues and our marketing department have worked very closely on, and it's meant for existing programs to assess how their workforce solutions program is going. So if in fact they have an MSP in place, there's a survey that's conducted with a number of, whether they're power users or the stakeholders, to sort of answer some questions and provide us information so we can feed back to them what the state of their solution is and where we are noticing gaps and what solutions could be put in place to solve for that. So we're trying to do that as we go through new implementations. We're also doing it with prospects that are coming to us and saying, we want to outsource our managed services program, because there are a lot of folks that are internally managing those and that want to outsource them. So we're going through a lot of that, but that's really something, it doesn't even take more than 45 minutes. And then we put together a proposal. We do it at free of charge, put together analytics for them so that they can take a look at where their program stands, where there are opportunities for them to improve, and then maybe things that they're doing really well that they can learn from. So yeah, yeah, that's it. And I think I need to pass on to Natalie, I believe.
Well, I will ask, Kristen, we do have a question that has been presented for you, if you don't mind.
Oh, great.
Yes, it's wonderful. We're thrilled. The question is, do you anticipate further changes in your sales approach as we move further into 2021, given that our country is now progressing into a reopening phased approach? And has that next step planning begun?
So the answer is yes, the next step planning has begun. We've been talking about it for months, and I think we're all really excited. I think it is going to continue to change. I think the things that, what I think we've learned as an organization is the things that we really thought we needed to rely on, we don't necessarily. I will tell you personally that I am a relationship person, and I think as an organization, we are relationship people. And so getting in front of clients is really important. But I think that the need or the reliance that we thought we had on conferences in person and things of that nature, I think a lot of organizations have done a really, really nice job of, doing these things virtually and having it have a similar, if not more impactful benefit. So I would say that I think it's going to continue to change. I don't think we'll ever go back to the way it originally was. Yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Absolutely. We appreciate your willingness to share these details, Kristen. Thank you very, very much.
Absolutely.
Next, we'd like to continue with introducing Natalie Hill, who will share with us how nextSource manages their audits and suppliers. Natalie, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've been doing with our clients, our supply base, especially in this, I would call it this COVID world that we've been living in. So one of the things which I'm sure most of you on the call right now understand is a lot of the clients have been looking for cost savings opportunities. And this is obviously one entail with the COVID situation and putting some stress on companies, obviously, with this period that's come through. But one of the things that we've been doing at nextSource is really looking at opportunities to save our clients money, which may not be the typical cost savings measures that we may have done in the past. So, one of the things in 2020 that we sort of started implementing with our clients is really doing these extensive audits of worker pay stubs. So a number of our clients are on a markup basis model. And so we were just making sure, our suppliers are in agreement with their contract and that we weren't overcharging the client. And so one of the things that we did last year was clawbacks. So if we did note that there were suppliers that were really loading their pay rates, we were clawing back the funds for that. So that was a cost savings for the client. The other thing that did entail was, push the rates down. So if we had a worker that was, getting charged supposed to be on a 45% markup, we found out that the pay rate wasn't actually what it was. Well, that obviously brings down the overall bill rate, and it's a long-term cost savings for the client for that particular worker. So really starting to sort of look into those audits more, find ways that we can claw money back for the clients if they've been overcharged. The other thing that we've been looking at is competitive bid, and we've implemented this with a couple of our different clients. So, typically a lot of programs will be either on a bill rate driven model, or they'll have a not to exceed rate. We've just removed those rates completely, and now we just have competitive bid. In some instances, depending on the technology, we have the opportunity to have lowest submitted rate so that the suppliers do have some sort of rate to work off. But otherwise, they're working blind. And what we're noticing with this is, rather than us telling the supplier, okay, this is the max rate, and then getting all of our candidates at the max rate, we've really started to see this push down the rates overall, and it become more competitive and overall a cost savings for the client. So really starting to see some big savings in terms of that bucket. The other piece that we've really started to look into is this nearshoring component. So there was always, a big portion of IT spend in this offshoring, but what we've started to see is this interest of nearshoring workers out of the LATAM area. So still in the same time zone, but obviously not in the US, and they come at a much cheaper price point when we're looking at countries outside of the US and the LATAM region. And so that's really started to be a big priority of ours. We've just recently engaged some suppliers that can support that type of nearshoring, and that's really starting to become more and more of a cost savings for the client as well, because we're obviously driving the rates down there. So knowing that Rachel obviously manages our largest program, our largest MSP at nextSource, I just wanted to loop her into this conversation about cost savings as well, and just let her explain any additional cost savings that they're doing at the New York Life account.
Thanks, Natalie. So yes, as probably everyone on the call is aware, 2020 was, a lot happening, a lot of, companies kind of going into maintenance mode, really assessing what they had to work with, and really how could they get, continue to get cost savings, and also avoid costs. So that was definitely a big push with customers when we kind of went into COVID in March. So one of the things we're doing, and I'll talk about it a little bit more when Natalie, kind of finishes, is really being proactive in engaging our customers with creative workforce planning. So getting ahead of the needs that they have, so that we can really understand how we're going to source these resources. Where are we going to find, the most qualified resources at the best price point? And it's being able to be that partner with our customer and sit in on these workforce planning meetings, so that we can really advise on best practice for which type of resource to engage for that, for that cost savings, whether it is, it's a remote worker, whether it's looking at a broader geography base, and even, the trade-off of using a staff aug resource versus an SOW versus a freelancer. So really just being creative in how we're doing that workforce planning with our customers.
Great, thank you, Rachel. So jumping into the next point that we have here is really the scorecard and profitability. So nextSource has just recently, in the last 6 months, we've implemented a company-wide scorecard. So previously we were scorecarding our clients on an individual basis, but we now have a company-wide scorecard. This is helping us determine who our top suppliers are across the company, which has been really, really helpful. Especially when we're looking at new programs and bringing additional suppliers in to help us with talent. The other thing has been a real push from our clients in terms of reducing the supplier base to increase the profitability for those remaining suppliers on the program. So obviously with COVID, a lot of our big programs, we did see a reduction in the number of positions last year. As Rachel mentioned before, a lot of clients were in maintenance mode, just trying to get through the COVID situation and, repurpose the way we do business. So we've really started to see this push on profitability for our existing suppliers that are doing really well on the program, and utilizing this data to ensure that, we are staying current with, who we should have on our programs. The other piece is really about that additional diverse supplier partners. So, we have obviously been making cuts to a lot of our supply bases, and then in addition to that, it's, adding additional suppliers that have, potential different diverse categories that we may not already have on the programs, service disabled veterans, veterans programs, these types of things that we're really trying to make sure, we cover all diversity groups and making sure that we have those on our programs. So that's been a really big push, especially from the client as well. The other piece that we've really been looking at is, supplier optimization, rationalization. One of the things that's happened during this COVID period is we've seen this really big push in demand for light industrial positions. And so I think one of the other things in tandem with this is that what we've noticed is that a lot of our suppliers that, potentially liked to work in that light industrial space before COVID, they started moving away from it. One, because, the cost, the insurance cost, maybe the risk. The other piece was the unemployment benefits across the US that were going out. It was making it more difficult to find people for these jobs in the light industrial space. And so we've really really seen that demand in that area, especially with our clients, increase over the COVID period. So really trying to find additional partners that we can work with to be able to fulfill the roles for our clients. So that's definitely been something in terms of an impact. You know, it's really this increase in demand on light industrial positions. As you can imagine, you know, with COVID, you know, distribution centers, you know, groceries, service delivery, a lot of these types of roles have really increased in demand, but we in turn have found it very difficult to source for a lot of these positions. So yeah, really seen that. That's been a big piece. The other thing that we've seen is really this increase in demand for international payroll providers. And I know Kristen sort of touched on this before in terms of our clients, you know, not only looking domestically, but they're also, you know, hiring people internationally. And so I think this whole impact of COVID has really changed the way that businesses work and utilize staff. I think in the past, it was, you know, there was this really big push to have people in seats in offices in the US or in certain time zones. And we've definitely seen this change a lot. There's been a huge demand for international payroll providers from most of our clients, to be honest, since COVID took over. And so one of the things that we've done at nextSource is we've created an international supplier network. And so these are providers that we work with to be able to payroll staff in other countries, but also recruit staff in other countries if we need it. And so this, as I said, this has been a really big push. We've just really created this department in the last, you know, 12 months. This is something that we really weren't supporting in the past, but this huge demand for it, you know, we're continuing to see that. I think there's a couple of reasons for this. One, you know, people may have been on visas in the US, they weren't able to renew it in time. They've gone home to their home countries to avoid COVID. Obviously, the US, we had a pretty bad go for a while with COVID, and so a lot of people were fleeing the country and going home. And so a lot of these companies still needed these resources to continue, and so really reached out to us to see what we could do to help them. And international payroll department sort of came alive. So that's definitely been, you know, a big bonus for us, because we've, you know, been able to come up with a solution for our clients, and, you know, continue to support them with the workers that they had previously working in the US. The last topic to sort of touch on today is supplier diversity. And I know, you know, Kristen sort of mentioned this before as well, but we are really starting to see this huge push from our clients to make sure that we are sort of making sure the workforce is diverse, and it's not just our suppliers that we're working with that are diverse. One of the things that nextSource is a little unique in the MSP space is that we are a diverse MSP provider. So, you know, that in itself is very unique. And so one of the things that we've been trying to do and put together is really this option for new clients or even existing clients if they wanted to have a completely diverse supply base. And so that's something that we've been putting together. It is a huge topic for a lot of clients at the moment. So we are able to obviously partner with our diverse partners, but also be an MSP that is diverse. So that's very unique in the market, and something, you know, we continue to work on and work with suppliers on. The last thing that I'll touch on is just in terms of nextSource. So we have recently just rolled out a supplier prospects database. This connects to our database at nextSource. If you would like to join and be part of our supply base, or at least our prospects supply base, you can go to nextsource.com, so www.nextsource.com, click on the connect button, and there'll be an option there to become a supplier. And so one of the reasons I say this on the webinar is that, as I said, you know, we are always looking for diverse partners. We're always looking for great suppliers to partner with. And we've put this together just to, you know, have the ability to reach out to suppliers if there's particular needs. So again, any suppliers on the call today, really suggest that you do that. You know, we would love to partner with you, and, you know, we continue to sort of push forward with our diversity and live in this post-COVID world. So thank you again for letting us speak today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. That was fabulous. I will say, Natalie, there were a few points that you mentioned. We had some questions come in. Obviously, you talked about your suppliers and your request for cost savings. Obviously, they've been responding very favorably to that. And then as well as relative to your supplier scorecards, that you've clearly made some modifications over this past year, considering the new world of events. But one question that I would like to ask that you touched on, but specifically, are there any industries or industries or geographies where you're experiencing an increase in light industrial skill sets?
Yeah, I would say really with the light industrial skill sets, we're sort of seeing this across the board. So I wouldn't say there's a particular area per se, but it's definitely across all of our clients. A lot of our new clients that we've just recently been bringing onto our program are in that light industrial space as well. So definitely a big demand there. And I think that just sort of goes hand in hand with this COVID situation. A lot of people are at home, they're not going out, they're not venturing out. And because of that, there's obviously a lot more deliveries happening. There's a lot more in terms of grocery stores, you know, the distribution of those groceries. So definitely seen a really big uptick in the demand for the need of light industrial candidates. In terms of the other spaces outside of light industrial, we've really started to see these areas pick up again. So the IT spend, the professional services, I think ever since sort of, I would say February, we've really started to see an uptick in demand for those roles again, which is great to see. It looks like things are starting to recover and more people are, you know, vaccinated. So I think, you know, we definitely expect to see, you know, big changes in 2021. But as Kristen mentioned before, I think the way that clients do business, the way that we do business has definitely changed. I think this, you know, working remote or working outside of the US is probably going to be more and more common. But yeah, definitely, we definitely are seeing a big change in 2021, which is great to see on the upside.
Wonderful, wonderful. This information is wonderful. Thank you very much, Natalie. We appreciate your input and time today. Next, I'd like to offer to the floor Rachel Harrington, who will discuss program management and its evolution at nextSource. Rachel, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks, Monique.
My pleasure.
So I really kind of want to start off with, you know, a couple of things that Natalie noted. So, you know, I think the theme has been, you know, from Kristen to Natalie, you know, cost savings. So, you know, there really is a push to make sure that, you know, our customers are meeting their cost savings goals, that we're assisting them with that we're part of the planning in that, because it's just so important. And with that is, you know, being creative with that workforce composition planning. So, you know, as Natalie just mentioned, you know, the geography base has really broadened from where we're looking at people. And even, you know, customers that are historically on site and say, you know, when we're done with this and everyone's vaccinated and it's kind of time to get to an air quote normal, that they will be on site again. They've been saying that for a while. I'm starting to hear now a little bit more and more that there's going to be more flexibility. You know, I think they are realizing that they can get, you know, really great talent that isn't local to their office. So we are helping them do that. You know, we are working with them. We do a lot of supply and demand searches for them, and we bring them this market intelligence so that we can really understand how to pose the workforce, you know, at the best value. And again, with that, not only the geography base, but really looking at the best type of worker for this. You know, again, is it a staff log resource? Is it you know, something that we want to do on a project as an SOW, or is this really something we need a subject matter expert that can come in, hit the ground running, get the project done, you know, as an IC or a freelancer, you know, in a much, you know, tighter turnaround. So, you know, these are things, again, we're all, you know, all working very closely with our customers. And something I'll touch on just a little bit, you know, as I go on is, you know, our customers are really looking to MSPs now as a strong subject matter expert partner. So they're looking for the MSP to really bring them the best in class, what is happening in the market, what should they be doing, How should they be doing it? Really looking for the MSP to have that input. And I think it wasn't necessarily always that way. Oftentimes, as the MSP, we are an extension of our customers, procurement and talent acquisition arm, and we tend to kind of be very reactive to what, how they want to operate. And definitely a shift in 2020 as things started to change. So we really are, we're taking a proactive lead on that and working with our customers to, on the workforce composition planning, bringing them best practice, bringing them the market intelligence, so that they can curate that best talent. So with that, we're finding, and Natalie had touched on this as well, that there are now very hard to fill roles. There wasn't a lot of hiring in, kind of in the financial industry in 2020. And now as we've moved into 2021 and we're starting, the hiring is picking up, the new jobs are coming out, there is a fierce competition for strong talent. So we really need to look at how we're recruiting them, how we're branding with our customer to engage them. So we've really, started looking at, bringing on new suppliers, and as Natalie said, especially diverse suppliers with a strong, diverse recruiting program, because a diverse workforce is a strong workforce. So that is really important. And one of the things, that we're hearing a lot from our customers is that one of the most important things to them in 2021 is a diverse workforce. So this is something, again, we're going to work with them very closely to meet their goals. So, starting off with kind of building those talent communities. So really understanding the types of roles we're seeing that we need at the customer, and working with our suppliers to know where to go to find those resources, pipelining them, it's showcasing strong candidates that when they come in to managers that we know use this type of skill, just being a little bit more proactive so that we can get that best candidate. Nurturing associates, that's really important now as we're interviewing and working very closely with our supplier partners. It's really making sure that when we bring on a remote resource, we're giving them everything they need to be successful to work remotely. It's really not just as simple as saying you'll be working from home. You just lose a lot of infrastructure when you're not in the office, when you don't have the support structure there. So really making sure we are giving our resources that, it's a good experience for them. They'll be more successful. They get up to speed much faster, and they will stay longer. They won't feel out of touch and start looking for a new job. So really making sure that we can retain the quality resources that we are bringing in. And then again, kind of building, on building those talent communities, really working with our suppliers for some of those community specific sourcing for diversity candidates. So really just, looking at targeted areas for this recruiting. Again, on expanding this broader geography base, we have much more opportunity to do this right now. So it's really something we are weaving in, with all of our customers, continuing to look at what the market is doing and bringing that best practice to our customers. And with that, again, it's being the subject matter expert and being like the thought leader. So really having a proactive consultative approach. Again, it's all in the partnership and the relationships that we build with our customer, but just making sure that we are, continually raising the bar on the MSP, on our operations, bringing best practice and market trends to our customer, not waiting for business reviews to bring this information, but being proactive and bringing it to them in our regular weekly meetings when it's available, really making them aware of what nextSource is doing and other customers, where we are having successes, what is working well, and bringing these case studies and often white papers to our customers so they're aware of what is happening, what we can do, and how we can pivot, quickly if we need to. And really that all comes with kind of understanding customer needs and guiding that best in class. And as we think about everything that we do at nextSource, we all want to be, thought leaders. We all want to have best practice. And I'm going to kind of kick it back to Kristen for just a minute to give you an example of some of the things we are doing, as it relates to thought leadership and community.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier when I spoke, and I know Natalie and Rachel have touched on this too, is that we are very committed to the communities that we serve. One of the things that we're doing in our continuous commitment to diversity in the workplace is I am actually serving on a board of an organization called the Leadership Initiative, which is based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania through Carnegie Mellon. And this initiative or this organization was developed to try to keep diverse candidates that were moving toward executive leadership roles in the city, as opposed to, having them leave the area. We were missing out on there's been a lot of research done that's indicated that we've lost a lot in the city of Pittsburgh, lost a lot of great talent to other cities just because the opportunities were there for them. So this was founded by a gentleman by the name of Evan Frazier a couple of years back, has now been is funded and sponsored by Carnegie Mellon, the Tepper School of Business. I serve as a mentor on this organization, and we meet on a bi-weekly basis. There are specific programs that these mentees are participating in, and at the end they'll be certified, and we'll have a ton of organizations and contacts throughout the area that we hope will encourage them to stay in the Pittsburgh proper area. So it's just something that, and obviously nextSource is supporting that. It takes time on my behalf away from the office, but it's something that we feel is really important as an organization, and I know that that's going to be something that's going to expand nationally. So thank you, Rachel, for that, and just wanted to give that quick update.
Great, thank you, Kristen. So kind of overall, our evolution is that we need to partner more closely with our customers. And be that subject matter expert. It needs to be a 50-50 relationship. We really need to understand our customer. They need to understand our subject matter expertise and what we can do best. And we need to be, giving our best to our customers and being really just very proactive with what we're doing, how we're doing it, and what we think they should be doing it to elevate their contingent labor program.
Thank you, Rachel. We do have a few questions for you, if you don't mind. I have 4 to be exact, one of which you've already touched on. But in terms of the specific, one of the questions is, what specific challenges have you experienced while in the process of curating talent? And have there been any unique skill sets that have been the most challenging to curate?
Yeah, so some of the challenges really have been in some not pivoting most really quickly enough to get candidates into an interview, into a higher status. We're finding that we get great candidates, but again, there's such fierce competition. I'm going to say, for the most part, I am seeing this right now in the digital space, and in the IT infrastructure and security space is really where I'm seeing it. But these candidates come in with their resumes at several clients. So it really is kind of a race to get them in. And it's really, just, educating our hiring managers, keeping them up to date on what the market is doing and how quickly it's moving. And that if you've interviewed someone that you like, pull the trigger on them. We always try to say that you're never going to find that person that has the laundry list of what you want. But if you've interviewed someone and spoken to someone that can do the job on day one, pull the trigger on it. So we can get them in and and get them working, and we don't lose them to competition.
Great. I have another question regarding workforce composition planning. Do you approach that process by individual clients or by like client skill set requirements to maximize pulling opportunities?
That is an excellent question. And that is, along the lines of the expertise that we're bringing. So right now it is by client. because this is, this is a little bit of a different approach, and I think historically every customer is different, but the MSP has not always been involved in that workforce planning. Oftentimes we're looped in after the workforce has been determined. They know what projects are, they know how many resources they need, and then we kind of get brought in afterwards to start the the sourcing with our customers, which is a very reactive way to operate. So it is by client right now, but the more we're doing it and the more we can have, the case study of our successes, the more we can broaden the platform we're bringing it to. So we can then start bringing it, more along the lines of skill set and industry.
Beautiful. Another question just came in. What impact on quality and delivery on reduction of cost through lower bidding? And do you have any guidance on how reduced costs can still get you qualified resource?
Oh, another tough question.
We've got a great audience.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of circle back to what Natalie talked about. And it is really making sure that you have an optimized supplier list. Suppliers that really are partners to you and to the customer. Building MSPs where suppliers have an opportunity to be successful. Because when we have those supply lists in place, that's when we find that we do not lose the quality in the resource based on the reduced prices, because there is opportunity. It is very hard to do, and I'm trying to think of the best advice when you have a large supplier list, when you have a ton of competition and you really are not, there's not a lot of volume. It is hard on those reduced rates to really get that best candidate in the door and keep them interested and engaged. Again, just because the competition is fierce. And I'm trying to think of a better answer. And maybe as I do, through my program, I will get that back to Monique and Gloria, and they can get that out, because it is tough when you have these reduced markups and the reduced pricing. If you don't have the volume, it is really tough to engage, keep candidates engaged and get that best candidate, to the customer.
Wonderful, wonderful. I have another question here. What do you find as the top 3 best practices and trends that you can share to help your clients achieve their business goals?
Yeah, and Rachel, I can take one of these questions for you if you'd like. I feel like
I would definitely like you to take this one. I think this plays really nicely into what you discussed.
Yeah, so I think, look, in terms of our best practices, I think one of the things that nextSource really tries to do in terms of partnerships with our clients is we try to be that white glove service provider. So that definitely is a piece that really helps us move these programs forward. So definitely, the hands-on service. We're not an MSP provider where a supplier submits a candidate and they don't get feedback. So we're really big on communication with our clients, but also our supply base. The other things that I think we do is we're always looking for innovative ways to, from a cost savings perspective, to try to make, to provide additional cost savings to clients. We're always looking at increasing or decreasing our market rates wherever we need to be based on the market, so that our programs aren't sitting there stale and we've got the same rates for 2-3 years at a time. So we're definitely always doing things like that. And then it's really just, I think for us, it's the big partnership piece, looking into any innovative ways that we can make our programs a little better, and then really just trying to manage our programs as best as possible.
Wonderful. I have one final question. In a highly competitive space, what is nextSource's differentiator over your competitors?
Rachel, I don't know if you want to take this one or not. I think for us, and I'll speak to the first part, and then Rachel, if you want to jump in.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think for us, look, we partner with our supply base extremely closely. So I think in terms of competitiveness, One, we're making sure that we don't have too many suppliers on our programs. The thing is, and Rachel touched on this before, if you have too many suppliers on your MSP program, it doesn't become, you know, enough for that supplier to want to put their best candidate forward. So definitely controlling the number of suppliers on the program, that definitely helps to get some of those positions through. The other thing is that we're always, you know, if we know that we have really hard to fill roles coming through to our programs, we're always looking at other partners that we can partner with to make sure that we are able to capture those types of roles. Rachel, not sure if you've got anything else to add in terms of the competitiveness.
Yeah, you know, one of the things, you know, we're smaller. We're very nimble. We partner, you know, very closely. We have a CEO that is very involved in what we do and knows all of our customers. You know, it's often overused, but I want to say, you know, we have a very high touch approach, again, in being a partner, you know, to our customer. So I think it really is all about you kind of, you know, developing that partnership, you know, valuing the relationship, and building and curating the relationship and continuing to curate the relationship, I think is very important. I think, you know, one thing nextSource does really well is we don't get stale and we don't get complacent. And I think, you know, that speaks to the people that, you know, work at nextSource, that it speaks to the supplier partners we have that support us, and it speaks to our customers.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rachel. I found this to be fascinating and extremely informative. We do have a few other questions that I think we'll have to attend to. Gloria will speak to that in a few moments, but in the course of time, I'd like to hand the floor back to Gloria, and thank you very much for your time and efforts.
Super. Well, you know, team, what an absolutely excellent discussion and so many relative topics, right, that we're addressing in the market today. So, you know, thank you so much for sharing those with us. It really is exciting to hear about all of the changes that you're taking place within the organization. So again, thank you very much. So we'll be closing, and what I'd like to do is do some thank yous here. So a very sincere thank you to Monique, our host today, and a very special thank you to our guest panelists today from nextSource, Kristen, Rachel, and Natalie, for sharing with us how they're really adjusting their business models and strategies for 2021. Absolutely fantastic. So I hope that everyone has enjoyed the topic discussion today. And VeriKlick is going to be hosting additional webinars monthly throughout the year, and we really hope that you're going to follow us and attend our future webinars. We really have some exciting guests and topics identified that you're going to find quite interesting. So we would, you know, certainly hope that you'll attend those. And all of you will also receive a survey at the conclusion of the webinar, and we'd really appreciate it if you could take a few minutes and provide us with your valuable feedback. It will help us as we progress along with our webinars. So a special thank you to all of you for joining us today for this webinar. My name is Gloria McLennan, and on behalf of VeriKlick and nextSource, have a great day, and thank you again for attending.